Revenge films.
My name is Jennifer Smith. Back when I was a college student, I had a boyfriend, but I was betrayed by him and my best friend when I discovered that they were having an affair behind my back. I broke up with my then boyfriend, and I also cut off all ties with that friend. At that time, I lost two people that were really close to me all at once. After having such a painful experience in love, I became shy and uncomfortable with relationships after that. However, the person that kindly cheered me up during that time was my classmate back in college, Michael. He said to me,
"Jennifer, you didn't do anything wrong. It's normal to trust your boyfriend and to trust your own friends. They're the ones that were wrong for betraying you. You don't need to feel guilty."
That's what he said to make me feel better. Eventually, throughout our friendship, Michael started to chase after me and said that he wanted me to date him.
"I swear to you that I will never betray you or cheat on you."
He promised this to me.
Just because you were betrayed by two people, that doesn't mean that you need to change. You have a beautiful heart, Jennifer. I want you to stay just the way that you are forever. You're wonderful just the way that you are.
He said that to me many times, in many ways, and I started to trust him, and we began our relationship. 1 year after we graduated from university, we decided to get married and have our wedding. If it's Michael, if it's this person, I'm sure it's going to be fine. Because he's different from that ex-boyfriend and ex-best friend that betrayed me like that, and he promised he would never do the same. Our wedding was coming up in a few days, and I firmly believed this. Both Michael and I were extremely busy in our first year of work. Because of that, we hadn't started living together yet, and we hadn't submitted our official marriage certificate yet either. Our plan was that after the wedding, we would move into our new home together, and that we would submit our legal certificate then. However, the one thing we had done already was to meet one another's families and inform them that we were getting married. When Michael met my little sister Karen, they got along well. My little sister was living with my parents at the family house, and every time Michael would come over, she would always be home. And Michael would always come over with treats and cakes, but every time he would do so, he would buy something that he knew my little sister liked. According to him, he would say,
"I want my future sister-in-law to think well of me, so I want to get things that she likes."
That was his explanation. Even my parents looked at them and were happy, saying that they looked like real siblings already. In our family, we didn't have any boys. It was just me and my little sister. And perhaps because she didn't have any experience as a working adult yet, she looked a lot younger than her age. She was very cute. My little sister and I had always had a normal relationship. I'm sure we were like any other sisters you'd find anywhere, and we never had any major issues. And so the days went by, and I smoothly welcomed the day of my wedding. At our wedding, it wasn't just our families and relatives from both sides of the families. A lot of our friends and people related to one another's work had all gathered together for the big day. However, when I looked out into the crowd, there was something wrong with my little sister. Maybe she's nervous because it's the first wedding she's ever attended? I figured that little by little she would ease up and become more comfortable, but that wasn't the case. Because as the wedding continued on, I could see that my little sister was only becoming more pale. Her face looked like she was about to cry at any given moment. She was down the whole time. It felt different from not feeling well or being sick. I wonder what's wrong. I was worried, but I was busy as the bride of the wedding, and I didn't have the time to go over to my sister and check on her. It seemed like my parents also thought she was just nervous because it's the first one that she was attending, and they didn't seem like they were too concerned about it either. About halfway into the wedding, things had been going smoothly, but then the most unexpected thing happened. All of a sudden, my sister let out a huge cry and started crying loudly. I thought that if anyone was going to be crying at the wedding, it would be my mom, so I was shocked. Because such a loud crying voice came up out of nowhere, everybody in the venue turned towards my little sister. What? What on earth just happened? Everybody in the venue seemed just as confused as I was, and the relatives that were near my little sister were taken aback and didn't know what to do. They were all trying to listen to what she had to say, but my little sister only started crying louder. The entire venue was at a loss. However, as my little sister continued to cry in front of everybody, little by little the feelings around started to turn to sympathy. I could hear people as they started whispering, "What on earth just happened? Why is the little sister of the bride crying so intensely?" My little sister had been crying for a while when suddenly she turned to me and started apologizing. "Jennifer, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Because the whole room had gone quiet when she started crying, her voice echoed throughout the wedding hall. All she was doing was repeatedly apologizing, but she wasn't saying anything as to the reason why. The relatives were also getting confused, and everybody was trying to ask her what she was apologizing for. However, my little sister didn't say anything else. She was only repeatedly apologizing. What on earth is she apologizing for? What is she talking about? I racked my memory trying to remember anything she did, but there was nothing I could think of that would warrant this reaction. However, of course, because she was apologizing to me, all of the wedding guests had turned their attention to me. My parents started coming closer to me, and my mom quietly asked me, "Did something happen between the two of you?" But I also have no idea what's going on, and I can't remember anything either. My parents and I ran over to my sister together. I got close to my little sister, and I tried to gently ask her what happened. All of the relatives on the groom's side also seemed concerned from afar for my little sister. Everybody was confused, and about 10 minutes went by of not knowing what was going on in this situation. All of a sudden, the groom jumped out of his seat with so much momentum as if he couldn't handle it any longer. His chair fell over, and the sound echoed throughout the room. When I looked over, the groom's face was pale. His face was also strained, and then he said,
"I'm going to explain. I'm going to tell you everything about what happened."
And then in the middle of the wedding, with a look on his face like his stomach was turning, he started exposing the most shocking truth in front of everybody. And this was when my wedding took a turn straight to hell.
I'm in a relationship with a little sister of the bride. And just the other day we found out that the bride's sister is currently carrying our baby.
Huh? What did you just say? In a relationship? And not only that, but did you just say baby? I was stunned and at a complete loss, and the air in the wedding venue completely froze over and it was dead silent. Since when and how?
Are you asking about the relationship, or are you asking about the pregnancy?
Michael was speaking even more calmly than I could have imagined. However, because of the intense glare from the entire room, he seemed uncomfortable, and when I looked at his face, I felt like he looked more uncomfortable than he did sorry. Both. I'm asking about both. Since when?
It all began when you took me to your family house and introduced me to your parents and your little sister.
But isn't that around the time that you officially proposed to me and said that you wanted to get married to me? And that was around the very first time that you met my sister, isn't it? Does that mean that you were having this secret relationship behind my back for over a year now? As I started pressing and saying the details out loud, Michael looked like he was getting irritated and he raised his voice. He must have felt all the stares directed on him, and in an angered voice, he simply replied,
"Yeah, that's right. But you know what? We didn't know that she was pregnant until 3 days before this wedding. And we were using protection, too. All this time, we were careful to make sure that she didn't get pregnant."
That's not the problem here, is it? Just because you use protection, does that make it okay for you to be getting together with the bride's little sister?
I didn't say a word about that. It's just that both me and your little sister, neither of us had any intention of breaking our happy newlywed life that was about to start. It was just a little bit of messing around, kind of playing with fire, that's all.
What do you mean that you were just playing with fire? Are you kidding me?
We were both planning that after this wedding we would squash our relationship, and we said that we were going to go down our own separate paths after today. And if we were to do that, there wouldn't have been any problems. Everything would have been fine.
There must be something wrong with the both of you.
Cut it out. Don't speak badly of your little sister like that. I'm sure she felt bad and wanted to come clean, and that's why she started crying.
When she heard that, in an instant, my little sister started sobbing again, like she was the one in pain. For some reason, my groom and my little sister were acting like they were the victims. And I started to feel my blood boil. My wedding was completely ruined, and I was the one that wanted to start crying. Eventually, my little sister finally started speaking, but everything she was saying was defensive. Even though there were so many people gathered at the wedding and they had fooled all of us, she didn't have any words of apology. The parents of both families were completely furious. They split to the groom's side and the bride's side, and they were both yelling at Michael and Karen respectively. And it was a given that all of their anger was directed towards Michael and Karen. They were saying things like, "What kind of a monster are you that you would lay hands on your bride's younger sister?" Or, "How disgusting that you would sleep with your sister's fiancé." The yelling voices echoed throughout the venue, but then, suddenly, my little sister crumbled out of her chair and collapsed. Her eyes were closed and an ambulance was called that she was carried to the hospital. When the ambulance arrived, that was when all of the yelling and fighting stopped. Of course, the wedding was canceled. We had everybody take back their gifts and congratulatory money. At the very end, I went and asked Michael directly. "When we were in college, you knew that I had been cheated on and I was depressed. Why did you come near me? Why would you say things like you didn't do anything wrong, that you should be the way that you are, that you're wonderful just the way you are? Why would you say those things and try to cheer me up?"
Look, anybody that gets cheated on, it means that they have a loose grip. The fact that you were betrayed by both your boyfriend and your best friend made me think you were an easy girl. And I mean, look, in reality, you didn't even notice that for over a year, your little sister and your fiancé were having this kind of relationship.
Are you kidding me? You are the worst. Don't ever show your face in front of me ever again. And I'm going to make sure that you pay every last penny of this wedding. And you're going to be paying a settlement fee, both you and my sister. A few days later, when I realized that I was about to marry somebody like that, I was shaken to my core. This is terrifying. This is an even worse betrayal than what you would see in a TV show. It made me rethink everything. And plus, when my sister started sobbing like that, now that I think about it, the timing was way too smart. Even though she continued to say she was sorry, I had a feeling that her whole aim at that moment was to ruin the wedding and happy newlywed life between me and my ex-fiancé. As I was messaging my friend, I started using emojis that I would never normally use. I was so terrified that I used any emoji that I could find. Of course, the engagement and the marriage were all called off after that. And as for the wedding fees that were nearly $40,000, it was decided that my ex-fiancé and my little sister would be splitting that payment. And on top of that, I also collected a settlement fee of $10,000 from both of them for the destruction of the engagement. So the two of them were each left having to pay $30,000 each. Of course, neither of the parents of both families, nor their friends or relatives, nobody was willing to help them. On top of that, because my ex-fiancé had invited his colleagues and managers to the wedding and exposed everything about what he had done in front of them, I heard he resigned from his job. My ex-fiancé and my little sister then started to blame each other for what happened. She was pregnant already, but I don't know what happened after that. That's because the parents, relatives, and friends from both sides, and of course me, have cut off all ties with the two of them. They did this all to themselves.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.